with me, Philip and Philip's wife. The latter I observed to be slight and pale, not ugly, of course, for in these days even heiresses cannot afford to be ugly, but generally insignificant. But her maid, her tailor, and her corset-maker are evidently the best of their kind. I don't know how long Reggie Walker and I stood there adjusting our ball cards, perhaps a minute, perhaps 100 years. Then the room went round suddenly, and I found myself shaking hands with Philip. Our eyes met. He smiled his wonderful smile. It might almost have been last year. But it can never be last year again. Last year, Philip, you were a hard-working, ambitious young man, of whom great things were already prophesied at the bar. This year, you are a person of importance, your fortune made, your position assured. Last year, I was a one-ideaed young person in a white frock who blushed and smiled with undisguised delight when her friend approached her, who had smiles and blushes for no one else, whose days were full of vague, delicious happiness, whose wakeful nights were sweeter than nights of dreams. This year, I am a woman who knows her weakness, knows also her strength, and has had her experience. It is the 3rd day, and I have risen again. Without knowledge of life, there can be no true enjoyment of life. Life, I maintain, in the face of the sentimentalists, to be an acquired taste. For the educated palate, there are all sorts of gustatory surprises, olives, caviar, a host of sauces, far more delicious than, if not quite so wholesome as, the roast meat and boiled pudding of domesticity. You are right, Philip, and I, who once believed myself your victim, crushed beneath the juggernaut car of your ambition, I was wrong. Meanwhile, I have left us, Philip Shand and Virginia Warwick, shaking hands with one another, and smiling into one another's faces with almost exaggerated amiability. Am I too late for a waltz? There is only number 11 left. A quadrille? I ask for bread, and you give me a stone. I wrote down his initials on my card, and he made off, smiling brilliantly. I stood looking after him with a curious sense of unreality, divided between a desire to laugh aloud and another to go from the room, from the house, to some vague, impossible region of darkness and silence and solitude. At the same moment, I grew aware of a pair of wide-open, grey eyes fixed upon myself with unconventional intentness from the distance. Their owner was a tall, fair, weedy young man whose whole appearance was indefinably different from that of the surrounding people. It was not long before Mrs. Westerly swept up to me with this unknown young man in her wake. "Sir Guy Ormond, Miss Warwick." We both bowed, and he asked me for a dance, with a fervour quite disproportionate to the request. Some poor little waif of a swell, was my reflection, as he wrote his name against the 12th waltz, the only unclaimed dance on my card. For it must be owned that we were that night a distinctly middle-class gathering, a great mixed mob of Londoners, no mere Belgravian birds of passage, but people whose interests and avocations lay well within the great city. "May I take you in to supper later on?" said Sir Guy earnestly. "Yes, please," I answered, giving him a glance almost as serious as his own. Certainly there is no game so amusing as that which Philip taught me to play last year. At the opening of the 11th dance, Philip came up to me.